In Venezuela, the candidate for the Great Patriotic Poll, Nicolás Maduro, reiterated his denunciation that international media, together with the local far right, seeks to make invisible the forces of the Bolivarian Revolution. In China, 14 Palestinian movements signed the Beijing Declaration agreeing to promote a national unity government in the midst of the Israeli genocide in Gaza and the expansion of illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. And in France, the new Popular Front proposed Lucie Castets as Prime Minister of France. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the candidate for the Great Patriotic Poll, Nicolás Maduro, reiterated his denunciation that international media, together with the local far right, seeks to make invisible the forces of the Bolivarian Revolution. In this sense, during his visit to the state of Mérida, Maduro warned that the Venezuelan far right, together with its communicational allies, such as the Spanish agency EFE, the public television of Spain, the Spanish newspaper El País, financed by the United States, are preparing to shut fraud in the upcoming presidential elections. In this way, Maduro described these international media as anti-Venezuelan communicative psychorists who are linked to the far right to generate violence and hate in his nation.
They have the resource of shooting fraud left. They are already doing it with their United States allies, the far right, and what I call it the media hitmen of the first and the light. The Spanish agency EFE, the Spanish public television, the newspaper El País are the three sources in Spanish where every day they speak badly of Venezuela. Every day they lie and they are ready to shoot fraud. CNN in Spanish, media hitmen, anti-Venezuelans. But I have news for you. After 30 elections, we are used to it, and we are going to win. We are going to celebrate, and on the 29th, Venezuelan dawns in peace, peace, peace.
Likewise, the candidate for the Great Patriotic Poll assured that in Venezuela the fascist far right will be defeated through the votes on July 28th.
And that those garbage international hitmen stay with their lies and manipulations, because the fascist far right like Vox in Spain, the fascist far right like Bolsonaro in Brazil, the fascist far right like Uribe, Iván Duque, the fascist far right like Milei in Argentina, in Venezuela shall not pass. They will not come here. They will not return. We will defeat them with votes, vote, and popular triumph.
We go now to Caracas as our special envoy Juno Sooner brings us an update from the Bolivar Theater, where the second gathering for the World Social Alternative is taking place.
Hello from Caracas, actually from the Bolivar Theater in the center of Caracas, from the second meeting of the World Social Alternative convened by ALBA TCP, the Bolivarian Alliance of the Peoples of Our America, Treaty of the Peoples, together with the Simón Bolívar Institute located here in Caracas. During 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, experts from all over the country, as well as from all kind of Latin American countries and beyond, will discuss global topics here in the theater, and they have started today's morning with presentations from the Foreign Minister of Venezuela, Iván Gil, from the former Foreign Minister of Venezuela and current Executive Secretary of the ALBA, Jorge Arreaza, and different speakers from different countries, especially also from the European countries that took up on the coming up elections on July 28, and also media campaigns. In that context, they warned of possible imperialist media campaigns against Venezuela's election institutions and destabilizing the country by spreading false and illegal news. An example was given by Patricia Villegas, the president of teleSUR. She said that the opposition here was going to emanate results of the elections before the National Election Council would do so. But remember, the National Election Council is the only authority that can do so legally. So these news will be spread out illegally and falsely, and international media organs will disseminate them and will distribute them, thus causing instability and thus causing damage to the institutions of the country, Villegas said, who also called to alphabetize the citizens digitally, to teach them how to read the news, how to read the social news specifically. And she also called, this was another demand also applauded by other participants, to create our own spaces, our own virtual spaces and our own social networks, because all participants agreed upon the one idea that these social networks that are right now existing are being dominated by the US empire. Some of them gave even examples, name by name, how US government employees were deployed to lead these social media companies. So the discussions have started. They will also continue along topics such as networking among different social movements, and they will continue tomorrow on Wednesday, also looking for how to maintain global peace given the increasing imperialist aggressions in Europe and elsewhere.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, the Israeli occupation army killed around 100 Palestinians after shelling the central and southern Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours. Palestinian authorities reported that Israeli forces targeted Gazan homes in the center and south, leaving over 200 injured, including children and women. They further warned that thousands of Palestinians were forced to move amidst humanitarian and medical conditions described as catastrophic as a result of the Israeli occupation army's aggression. Palestinian rescue teams denounced the difficulties they face in reaching thousands of victims who are still missing under the rubble or scattered on the roads in the aftermath of the constant bombardments by the Tel Aviv regime. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, 14 Palestinian movements signed the Beijing Declaration agreeing to promote a national unity government in the midst of the Israeli genocide in Gaza and the expansion of illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. This way, under the mediation of China, the signatories, including Fatah, Hamas, and the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, pledged to promote comprehensive national unity, including all factions within the framework of the Organization for the Liberation of Palestine. In this regard, they also agreed to establish an independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital, in accordance with the United Nations resolution. The signing culminated a second round of intra-Palestinian dialogue that took place in
Today we sign an agreement for national unity, and we say that the path to completing this journey is national unity. We are committed to national unity and we call for it.
For his part, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, who attended the signing ceremony, called the event an important historic milestone in the cause of Palestinian liberation.
The most important consensus of this Beijing dialogue among Palestinian factions is to commit to the great reconciliation and great unity of all 14 factions. The core result is that it is clear that the Palestine Liberation Organization is the only legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. The most prominent highlight is the agreement to form an interim national reconciliation government around the governance of post-war Gaza.
In this context, the head of Chinese diplomacy called for a comprehensive ceasefire in the Gaza Strip.
The first step is to push for a comprehensive, lasting, and sustainable ceasefire in the Gaza Strip as soon as possible to ensure smooth access for humanitarian aid and relief. No excuse can justify harming civilians and prolong the war. The international community should further consolidate its efforts on the issue of ceasefire and cessation of hostilities.
And in this context, on Monday, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, arrived in the United States amidst demands for his accountability in the genocide perpetrated in the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu landed in Washington, D.C., where the far-right leader will address a joint session of the U.S. Congress on Wednesday, despite boycott plans by dozens of Democrat legislators. The Prime Minister furthered plans to meet with President Joe Biden, who kept strong economic and military support to the Tel Aviv regime during his administration. The visit by the Zionist Prime Minister comes 2 months after the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, requested an arrest warrant for the Israeli Prime Minister for committing war crimes and crimes against humanity.
I will seek to anchor the bipartisan support that is so important for Israel. And I will tell my friends on both sides of the aisle that regardless who the American people choose as their next president, Israel remains America's indispensable and strong ally in the Middle East.
In this context, dozens of activists protested in front of the White House to condemn the visit of the Israeli Prime Minister. With banners and speeches, the demonstrators questioned the authorities who were on the scene. Meanwhile, the Center for Constitutional Rights urged the U.S. Justice Department to investigate Netanyahu for his responsibility in acts of genocide, war crimes and torture against the Palestinian population. In Yemen, residents attended the funeral of 9 workers killed during an Israeli attack on the port of Hodeida city. For the burial, the coffins were carried in a caravan through the streets of Hodeida, accompanied by a crowd of relatives, friends, and other residents of the town. The Zionist aggression targeted the city's port and Hodeida's electrical and oil facilities, leaving at least 80 people injured in addition to those killed. The Yemen army promised a resounding response to the attacks and bombardments launched by the Israeli occupation forces, so it warned of striking Tel Aviv once again. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. On Tuesday in France, the new Popular Front proposed Lucie Castets as Prime Minister of the country. In this way, after 15 days of negotiations, the left-wing parties through the new Popular Front reached an agreement to propose Lucie Castets as Prime Minister. The appointment comes after Laurence Tubiana, the previous candidate proposed by the coalition of socialists, ecologists and communists, announced her withdrawal on Monday after considering that her name did not receive the necessary consensus. Castets has made her career as a civil servant fighting tax fraud and organized crime. It must be noted that these proposals still need Emmanuel Macron to agree the appointment, in addition to requiring the support of the French Parliament. The European Parliament, with the most extreme right wing in history, is being used by the ultras to spread their ideas. What could be the consequences of this situation? Let's see the details with our correspondent Andres Flores.
Following the European elections last June, far-right groups have become more prominent in the European Parliament.
In the new composition of the European Parliament, the element that stands out after these European elections is the much stronger emergence of the extreme right, including 3 groups with Marine Le Pen, with Meloni, with Vox, and also with Alternative for Germany. With this anti-rights agenda against women, against LGBT people, and in the case of the European Union, also very strongly against migrants.
For Castilla, the militarization of the continent is a key issue on the current European Parliament agenda.
There have also been very strong agreements in the line of increasing the rearmament of all the European powers, and of increasing those military budgets, above all in the line of militarizing borders, an absolute support and shielding of European imperialism, and also the absolute consensus in the support to the genocidal state of Israel with the massacre it is carrying out against the Palestinian people.
The European Union defines the Green Pact as a package of policy initiatives aimed at setting the bloc on the path towards a green transition, but historian Salvador Loa disagrees with that vision.
Another of the axes is to maintain the Green Pact, which from my point of view is not only an impotent policy in the face of climate change, since it leaves the supposed solution in the hands of those who generated it. It also hides behind it a clearly imperialist policy of placing European companies at the head of this new nook of green capitalism.
Although the far right fell farther short of the breakthrough many polls predicted, it has still managed to build a lobby to push for its policies.
What they are achieving is that the political chessboard is turning more and more to the right. I believe that the extreme right must be very happy, not only because of the results they have obtained electorally, but because what they are really achieving is that their political agenda is being implemented by others. Margaret Thatcher said that her main victory had been Tony Blair, a social democrat who applied the policies of neoliberalism. Well, today the main victory of Meloni, of Le Pen, of Vox, is that we have supposedly progressive governments, or governments of conservatives and others, that are applying the migratory policies that the extreme right-wing have in their programs, or that have been their agitation campaign in the last years.
This new European Parliament will be a challenge for the left, which will have to mobilize an alternative agenda in a hostile political context.
André Flores, teleSUR, Barcelona.
On Tuesday in Kenya, the anti-government protest movement is holding demonstrations across the country after President William Ruto appointed members of the cabinet he had dismissed a week earlier. In this sense, the demonstrators organized a nationwide rally, while in Kenya's capital they also mobilized a march to the airport, prompting a police warning. For their part, social activists reiterated that they want Ruto's government to step down and demanded reforms to end corruption and address poor governance and service delivery in national and regional governments. Meanwhile, protesters continue to defend their constitutional right despite government repression.
Presently in CBD, exercising our constitutional right to protest under Article 37. It is our right to be here. It is our right to fair comments. It is our right to peacefully share our concerns. And no one has a right to stop us from exercising our rights.
On Tuesday in Italy, the airport of Catania in the region of Sicily suspended its operations due to the eruption of Etna, the largest active volcano in Europe. In this sense, the National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology reported that due to the eruptions and ash emissions up to 8 kilometers high, it was decided to suspend air operations areas of southern Italy, while it also caused a shower of ash in the region of Catania and other nearby towns due to the volcanic cloud that rises from the crater. Authorities in Ethiopia on Monday reported new deaths linked to landslides caused by heavy rains. In this regard, a local official of the Kensho-Shasha-Gozdi district in the Gofa region to the south of the country stressed that while search operations continue in the area, they have reported 55 new bodies, thus raising the number of dead to 146, with most of the victims being children and pregnant women. Landslides are common in Ethiopia during the rainy season, which began in July and is expected to last until mid-September. The Argentinian women's field hockey team, known as Las Leonas, was among the first to settle into the Paris 2024 Olympic Village. The team dreams of winning their first ever gold medal after losing in the final of the Tokyo 2020 Games. In this context, although Argentina is among the favorites to finish at the top of the podium, the Dutch team makes the road ahead for the South American nation even more difficult, since it has dominated the history of women's Olympic field hockey with 9 medals overall. In turn, Las Leonas have 3 second places and 2 third places under their belt as they head to the Paris tournament, where 12 teams will compete for the gold medal.
I think we are very dedicated players. That's what they teach us here. Humility, commitment, effort. We know that the key to being where we are is always training. So we all know that we train here. We train 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions all year round.
Las Leonas are always on top. Like I said, there's a reason for that. We put in a lot of effort, a lot of training. Nothing comes for free. Nobody gives us anything. It's pure hard work. It's really about putting the shirt above everything else. It's a lot of love for the shirt. So to fulfill my wish, I would like the girls to give me the best Olympics of my life, which of course will be the gold medal.
On Tuesday, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for the commitment to promote solidarity and work for peace in the context of the Paris 2024 Olympics.
Bonjour and welcome to the 2024 Summer Olympic Games. The world gathers in Paris to celebrate the power of sport, to bring hope, to transcend cultures, to unite people, to promote mutual respect and fair play. These are also the ideals of the United Nations. In the spirit of the Olympic truce, I call on everyone to lay down their arms, build bridges, foster solidarity, and strive for the ultimate goal, peace for all. I wish every success to the Olympians and Paralympians. You inspire us to dream bigger. May the Olympic flame light the path to a world of peace and harmony.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.